Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe button right now. And listen, if you've been riding with this channel for a while, you already know the drill, but if you're new here, welcome to the family, because today's breakdown might be the juiciest one yet. We just wrapped a full week of Broncos training camp practices, and I have got a complete list of winners and losers that is going to change the way you look at this roster heading into the season. So drop a like on your way in. That helps this channel more than you know, and let's get into it. Because Broncos country, we are about to break down exactly who is rising, who is stalling out, and who might already be looking at a smaller role than they had penciled in just a few weeks ago. 4 winners, 3 losers, and one name at the very top of this list that everybody in Denver is buzzing about right now. This is not clickbait. This is not exaggeration. This is what is actually happening on that practice field. Straight from the reporters who are there watching it unfold in real time. Let's dive in. Now, before we get rolling, let me be clear about something, because I don't want anybody storming down to the comment section all fired up. When I use the word losers here, I don't mean it in some harsh, disrespectful way. Every single guy on this roster is chasing the same goal, the same championship, the same team success. This is just a fun way to frame the segment, tracking who's trending up and who's trending down through the first stretch of camp. Nothing more than that. Okay, disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the real meat of this story. First, a quick honorable mentions shout-out, because there were 5 players who flashed in their own way but didn't quite crack the official list. Jalen Waddle has looked electric when healthy, but he's been sidelined for a handful of practices, so it's tough to fully evaluate him right now. Jonah Coleman has turned heads. Tyler Beatty has had his moments. Sam Ehlinger, yeah, we already know what's happening there with the quarterback battle. He's been fantastic. And Sean Wade Jr. has quietly put together a strong camp as well. All 5 of these guys deserve a round of applause, but none of them quite made the cut for the top 4. Think of this like a top 9 list if we're being technical. All right, now let's get into the real winners. Coming in at number 4, we've got Marvin Mims Jr. And don't let the recent injury scare fool you into thinking this camp hasn't been a massive success for him. Yes, he did go down recently with what looked like a lower body injury, and it clearly did not look good in the moment. He needed some trainer assistance to get off the field, but here's the encouraging part. He walked off under his own power. That is a genuinely positive sign in these situations. The expectation right now is that the coaching staff shuts him down for roughly 4 to 5 days just to be safe, lets him get back to full health, maybe eases him into a couple of preseason drives, and has him fully ready to roll by week 1 against Kansas City. But here's the thing. Before that injury even happened, Marvin Mims was already putting together one of the best camps of anybody on this roster. He's shown a noticeably more developed route tree, which was on full display in those opening practices. That elite yards after catch ability that Broncos fans already know and love has continued to show up. And on top of all of that, there's a brand new motion package being built specifically around him. It is becoming clear that the coaching staff, led by new play caller Davis Webb, has a very specific plan for how they want to deploy Marvin Mims this season, and that is exactly what fans have been begging for. The talent has never been the question with Mims. It has always been about usage. And for the first time, it genuinely looks like the coaching staff is figuring out how to unlock him properly. Let's talk numbers for a second, because they tell the real story here. Last season, over a quarter of Mims' targets came on deep routes, which makes sense given his speed. But get this, over 40% of his targets came behind the line of scrimmage. That's an enormous chunk of his usage. Meanwhile, his intermediate route targets, the actual meat of a receiver's route tree, sat at just over 6%. 6%. That is criminally low for a player with his skill set. Nobody is saying those deep shots and screen game touches need to disappear completely, but there is absolutely no reason that intermediate number can't climb up into the 15% range this year. And based on everything we're seeing out of camp, that expansion appears to already be happening. Cross your fingers the injury is nothing serious, but as it stands right now, Marvin Mims is in a fantastic position heading into the season. Number 3 on this list belongs to a name some of you might not expect, but honestly you shouldn't be surprised, and that's defensive lineman Eyioma Ozumba, or Uzi as he's known around the building. He's stepping into a massive role this year, essentially taking over the void left behind by JFM's departure. And look, this isn't necessarily a brand new position for him since he's shown he can play basically anywhere along that defensive line, but he is stepping up in a very big way. When a veteran like DJ Jones is out there telling reporters that Uzi is unguardable and unblockable, that is not just empty locker room praise, that is a genuine, meaningful endorsement from a guy who knows exactly what he's watching. Here's what makes Uzi such a weapon. He can legitimately line up anywhere from a 1 technique to a 5 technique on that defensive line. Put him anywhere, and he delivers results. His run defense is already elite level. The one area scouts and coaches want to see him take that next step is in his pass rushing ability, and that's exactly why the staff has been experimenting with him at defensive end, because they want to know, can this guy give you elite run-stuffing production while also developing into a legitimate pass rush threat? If the answer ends up being yes, Denver has found its long-term answer at that JFM spot. Let's look at his production from last year in a rotational role. 5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Now bump that up to a full-time starter role, and those numbers could reasonably jump to somewhere around 8 or 9 tackles for loss and maybe 5, 6, even 7 sacks. And it's not just Uzi either, because when you pair him alongside Malcolm Roach and DJ Jones, you are looking at a genuinely terrifying trio up front that is going to make life miserable for opposing offensive lines all season long. Both Roach and Jones ranked in the top 10 in run-stop win rate last year league-wide. Right now, the real competition for that starting JFM replacement spot is a head-to-head battle between Uzi and Malcolm Roach. Savon Jones has had a couple of nice splash plays too, but he doesn't look quite ready to compete with the top 2 just yet. Number 2 on the winners list, and honestly this one might surprise absolutely nobody who has been paying attention, it's cornerback Riley Moss. He has had an outrageously good training camp, and the only reason he's not sitting at number 1 is because there is exactly one player who edged him out by the slimmest of margins. If Riley Moss earned a 95 out of camp, the guy above him earned a 96. That's how close it is. What has stood out about Moss specifically? His ball skills have taken a real jump. He's not just breaking up pass after pass consistently, he's now starting to actually rip the ball completely loose from receivers. He already snatched an interception directly out of Courtland Sutton's hands earlier in camp. That right there tells you everything about the confidence and aggression Riley Moss is playing with right now. Sean Payton himself has praised the toughness Moss is showing on the field, and it's clear this guy put in serious work during the offseason that is now paying dividends. There was a brief dip in his level of play in the middle stretch of camp, but calling it a dip might even be too strong a word. It was more like a tiny blip before he bounced right back to elite form. And remember, Riley Moss is building off a genuinely strong season already. He tied for the most pass breakups in the entire NFL last year with 19. His pick numbers weren't great and his completion percentage allowed wasn't spectacular, but here's the key context. He's not just locking down one specific receiver in camp. He is going up against Courtland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, and Pat Bryant, every single one of Denver's top receiving weapons, and he's holding his own against all of them. That is an incredibly encouraging sign heading into a season where this secondary needs to take a real step forward. And now, the number 1 winner of Broncos training camp, the guy generating buzz across the entire fan base and media landscape right now, wide receiver Pat Bryant. This isn't close. If you asked who the MVP of the entire training camp has been, offense or defense, it is Pat Bryant. Hands down. Every single Broncos reporter covering this camp is saying the exact same thing. Sean Payton doesn't typically slap official depth chart labels on guys this early, but if you were forced to put a label on Pat Bryant right now, he is clearly your starting wide receiver 3. Here's what makes this even more impressive. Pat Bryant catches literally everything that comes his direction. Every contested ball, every tight window throw, he is like a black hole out there. The ball simply does not escape his hands. But it's not just about hands anymore. His route running has taken a legitimate leap forward. It's smoother, it's crisper, and it was already solid to begin with. He's become far more movable along the line of scrimmage too, which means he's not locked into being strictly a boundary receiver anymore. He's showing real chops working out of the slot as well, consistently generating explosive plays well beyond the 10-yard mark. Whether that's a 25-yard gain, a 30-yard touchdown, you name it. And on top of all of that, he already brings elite-level blocking to the position. Think about that combination for a second. Contested catch ability, refined route running, versatility across multiple alignments, explosive playmaking, and physical blocking. That is the complete package teams dream about finding in a young receiver. There is clearly a specific plan being built around Pat Bryant with new play caller Davis Webb calling the shots. And when Bryant was asked about his connection with Webb, he couldn't stop smiling. It's obviously a partnership that is clicking in a big way. And here's where it gets really interesting for Broncos fans, because there is a growing theory circulating that Pat Bryant's emergence is making Courtland Sutton expendable long-term. Now, let's be very clear here. Nobody is saying that happens this season, and nobody is saying it happens next season either. But realistically, at some point down the road, whether through retirement, free agency, or simply father time catching up, Courtland Sutton's run in Denver comes to an end. And when that day arrives, Pat Bryant looks like the exact player being groomed to step into that void. That's not some wild conspiracy theory. That's just smart, forward-thinking roster building from a franchise trying to stay competitive for years to come. All right, now let's flip the script and talk about the training camp losers, the guys who haven't quite lived up to expectations through this opening stretch. And remember what we said earlier, nobody here is actually a bust. This is simply about who's trending down relative to the rest of the roster right now. Leading off this list is cornerback Denzel Burke. And this one genuinely stings a bit because there was a ton of excitement surrounding him heading into camp. The core issue here isn't necessarily poor performance. It's a complete lack of opportunity. He has missed multiple straight practices in a row, sitting out entirely, just watching from the sideline. And that's disappointing, because the physical profile is legitimately exciting. The athleticism jumps off the tape, and he was one of the highest-paid undrafted free agents the Broncos brought in this offseason. Unfortunately, when you're stuck on the sideline instead of getting live reps, there simply isn't much positive to report, and that alone lands him on this list. Number 2 belongs to wide receiver Troy Franklin, and to be fair, this hasn't been an outright disastrous camp for him. There have absolutely been flashes, but it started off noticeably slow. And while there have been some encouraging recent plays, 20-yard gains here, first down conversions there, even a touchdown, those flashes have been few and far between compared to what fans expected. Remember, Troy Franklin was the breakout star of this offense just last season. Now he's sliding down the depth chart toward wide receiver 4. Maybe even 5, depending on how you view Marvin Mims' current role. Franklin himself has openly acknowledged he needs to find more consistency, which shows real self-awareness, but the tape doesn't lie either. Actually, we saw this exact same shift happening late last season too. After the bye week, Pat Bryant was already out running more routes than Troy Franklin on a weekly basis, and that gap only grew as the year progressed. To be fair, Franklin still put together a genuinely solid season overall, right around 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, over 100 targets. That's a good season by any measure. But the concern here isn't about talent, it's about target competition. And right now, Pat Bryant is winning that battle in a very real way. Which means Franklin's overall role and production could take a step back this year, even if he's still a productive piece of the offense. And rounding out the losers list, cornerback Jade Barron. Now here's an interesting wrinkle. Because the last couple of days specifically have actually been really strong for him, he's clearly gaining momentum right now. But for the majority of camp leading up to these last 2 days, it was a genuine struggle. He was getting picked on repeatedly in coverage to the point where fans were openly questioning whether he had won a single one-on-one rep all camp. Reporters eventually confirmed he had turned things around recently, stringing together several strong reps in a row. But here's the real concern. He simply hasn't shown the same sticky, lockdown coverage ability that Riley Moss has displayed. On top of that, there had been rumors floating around about him potentially getting reps at safety, something Sean Payton has since directly denied. But the fact that he's being shuffled between multiple positions, nickel, dime, and outside boundary corner, does suggest the staff is still trying to find his best fit rather than him having a clearly defined, locked-in role the way Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan already do. Barron put together a solid rookie season last year. Nothing bad at all, but also nothing that fully lived up to first-round expectations. The real question now is whether this becomes a repeat of that same solid but unspectacular type of season, or whether he takes the leap fans were hoping for. So there it is, Broncos country. The complete winners and losers breakdown after week 1 of training camp. Marvin Mims finally getting used the right way. Uzi emerging as a legitimate building block on the defensive line. Riley Moss looking like one of the best corners in this entire camp. And Pat Bryant, the unquestioned MVP of training camp, quietly positioning himself as the long-term future at wide receiver in Denver. On the flip side, Denzel Burke stuck on the sideline, Troy Franklin losing snaps to a red-hot rookie, and Jade Barron working to climb out of an early camp slump. This roster is shifting in real time right in front of our eyes, and I promise you, I will be tracking every single one of these storylines as camp rolls on and preseason games start kicking off. So here's what I need from all of you watching right now. Drop a comment down below and tell me, do you agree with this list? Who do you think deserves to be higher? Who do you think got snubbed entirely? Smash that like button if this breakdown gave you a fresh perspective on this roster. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because we are chasing down 1,000 subscribers together, and every single one of you watching this video can help make that happen. Broncos country, thank you as always for riding with me, and I will see you in the very next one. Mile high salute, be cool.